Hello, beautiful weirdos. I am so excited to be back, and today I have a ghost story for you that is so crazy. So much happens in this, and I can't wait to tell you about it. So, before we go on, be sure to give this video a like and click subscribe down below so you get notified when I upload another ghost story for Makeup and Mayhem Fridays. Today's ghost story is about a young family that moved to a new home in 1989. I'm talking about the Wyrick family, which was Lisa, the mother, Andrew, the father, and little 3-year-old Heidi. So they moved to their new house in Georgia, a small town where they felt they could start fresh and build their little family in a new home. Shortly after they moved in, Heidi had a new friend, an imaginary friend, and Lisa would see Heidi playing in the backyard and on the swing set, or in her room talking and having conversations with her new imaginary friend. They didn't really think much of it. She was very young. It was very common for little ones to have imaginary friends. Eventually, Lisa would talk to Heidi about her imaginary friend, ask her just inquiring questions. And Heidi told her mom that her imaginary friend was an old man who wore a black suit and a black top hat. Immediately, Lisa thought that was kind of odd that Heidi's new imaginary friend was a small child like herself. Heidi told her mom that her imaginary friend was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Gordy. And they would play together outside and play on the swing sets and in her room. Lisa witnessed Heidi on a few occasions reaching up to hold something or grasp something with her hand, and it would just kind of float in midair. Heidi would tell Lisa that Mr. Gordy was holding her hand. Heidi spoke about Mr. Gordy quite a lot, and it would seem that he was around all the time. Of course, Lisa tried to be really supportive of her daughter and her imagination and just kind of let things be. And figured it was just Heidi's way of coping with the move and the new home and things like that. One day, the doorbell rang and Heidi went to answer the door. Heidi saw a man standing in the doorway with a injured hand and a bloody shirt. So, like any small child, she ran to tell her mom that there was an injured man at the door, and his name was Lon. And for good reason, Lisa was very concerned and ran to the door, but she didn't see anyone. So she immediately called her husband to come home because she was worried that someone was there to harm her and her daughter. Her husband came home and searched around the house and the neighborhood, and he was not able to come up with anything of this man being anywhere around. There was no trace of him. So around this time, Lisa's sister, Joyce, moved in next door. And like all sisters do, they began to talk, and Lisa told her what had been going on with Heidi and Mr. Gordy. Joyce suggested that they find out who previously owned the home. So Lisa really liked this idea, so she said, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So Joyce looked into the previous owners for her sister, and she found a previous owner by the name of Kelly. She spoke with Kelly, and Kelly had some information for her regarding previous owners and history on the home. So Joyce got together with Kelly, and Kelly told her that a gentleman by the name of James Gordy used to live in the home, but he passed away in 1974. So Joyce then goes back to her sister's house, and she tells Lisa what she learned about Mr. Gordy. And Lisa panics, realizing that Heidi's imaginary friend is actually someone that used to live in the home but had since passed away, therefore a spirit of this person. So Lisa decides that she's going to sit Heidi down and tell her the truth about Mr. Gordy. And when she does, Heidi, for some reason, when she learns about Mr. Gordy, decides that she wants to go visit his grave where he was laid to rest. So Lisa takes her to the cemetery, and when they get there, Heidi automatically goes right to Mr. Gordy's gravesite. Not only that, she couldn't read at the time. She wasn't old enough yet. So how she knew it was his gravesite, nobody really knows. So then Lisa calls Kelly and asks her to bring some pictures with her for Heidi to look at. And they lay these photos out, and Heidi points to the man that was at the door. Kelly says that that man is Lon, and that he was her uncle. She tells them that he lost his hand in a cotton gin accident and died from cancer in 1957. Andrew and Lisa don't know what to do with this information. They decide to distract Heidi with a dog. So they bring a dog home to hopefully give her something else to focus on. And Heidi, of course, loved the dog like any little girl would. However, they would find that the dog would sit and stare off into the corners and the hallway, and he would just bark and growl. And he just ended up making the parents really uncomfortable. As you can imagine. Unfortunately, it wasn't very long after they got the dog that the dog ran off and never returned. Which to me is a little suspicious. Like, what's up with that? As time went on, the parents started to experience some supernatural occurrences of their own. They heard objects being thrown. They would see doors open and close. So one time when Heidi had a friend over, a real friend, over for a play date, Heidi saw a chair. It was pulled out by some invisible force and flipped over and either thrown or pulled out as if someone wanted to sit with them. On some nights, Lisa claimed that she heard voices above her head while she was in bed. She said the voices were whispering about her and saying her name. But she would just ignore them and go back to sleep. Lisa decided to speak to her pastor about what was going on. The pastor told her that ghosts weren't real, but demons are. So moving wasn't an option for the young family. They had planned to stay many more years in the home. Lisa eventually got pregnant with their second child. And around this time is when Heidi told them that there was a bad thing in the house. She would tell them that this bad thing was a dark figure in her room. And it would appear in the dark shadows of her room. Heidi said that the dark figure could make her room so much colder. And she even said that at times it would pull her hair and pinch her. One morning, Heidi woke up and she had 3 scratches, like really deep scratches, on her face. Despite everything else, Andrew and Lisa just assumed that Heidi managed to scratch herself in her sleep. And it was nothing more than that. Until the following morning when Andrew woke up and he found scratches on the side of his face and on his side. Heidi told her dad that it was the dark figure that did it to him. In 1994, Heidi's brother was born. Later that same year, her parents decided to visit. Dr. Roll was a parapsychologist. They told him everything that happened in the house and with Heidi. Dr. Roll brought Heidi a bunch of pictures, and once again she was able to point out who Mr. Gordy was from the pictures without hesitation. Despite this, Dr. Roll told Heidi's parents that he was convinced that she was suffering from delusions. I'll be right back. I'm going to put on my liner and my lashes. So it wasn't long after this that the media learned about the Wyrick home. One reporter drove out to the home and actually never made it in because the reporter got this just really awful, overwhelming feeling and turned around and left. That's how bad it was. It was around this time that Heidi and her sister started to remember how their mom used to be able to talk with spirits, and she would talk about hearing voices and seeing people. I see dead people. So they thought that she was just kind of messing with people, or that she was just kind of messing with the girls and having fun with them. But now they believe that being able to hear and see spirits is something that runs in the family. After their discussion about this, the sisters ended up having more paranormal activity. Lisa ended up finding Jordan speaking to someone when he was about 3 years of age, about the same time that Heidi began hearing and seeing spirits. Jordan told his mom that he was playing with his new friend, who was a little girl. Heidi told her mom that the little girl was friendly, but this didn't make Lisa feel any better about the situation. So Dr. Roll was called once again, and now believed that seeing spirits ran in the family. He called a well-known psychic, so the psychic came to the home and instantly felt a little girl spirit in the home, as well as the spirit of Mr. Gordy. Psychic also said that she felt 3 dark spirits in the home. So the family wanted more answers and called a second psychic in for a second opinion. The second psychic that came to the home immediately confirmed the 3 demonic entities. So the second psychic came to the home. She immediately felt 3 demonic entities in the home. She said that one of the demons was trying to get into Jordan's room, the little boy. She said the second demon was trying to attach itself to Heidi, but Mr. Gordy was trying to stop that from happening. And Mr. Gordy was a good spirit. The psychic also said that the third demonic entity was moving from the living room to the parents' bedrooms, specifically the wall behind their bed where Lisa was hearing those voices and things. The psychic also told them that there was a portal between the spirit world and the real world in the living room. She said that demonic entities could find their way through the portal and would not want to leave. She specifically said that the portal was in their fireplace. Everything that was coming through was sticking around. Feeling absolutely helpless, the family asked the pastor to cleanse the home of evil spirits. The pastor came to the home and did the cleansing ritual, but it didn't seem to work for the family, or as they had hoped it would. One night, Heidi was awakened by a really bad feeling. She sensed a dark presence at the end of her bed, and she screamed for her parents. They ran in to discover that the evil spirit had yanked Heidi off of her bed and was hanging her upside down over the floor. And it was then that the family decided it was time to leave. And I don't blame them. That would freaking terrify the crap out of me. I'm sure many others as well. Heidi went on to live a normal life. She has a husband and she has her own family, her kids, and her home, a life of her own. Through her media coverage and paranormal experiences, she was able to connect with other people who shared similar experiences of the supernatural. And that concludes today's story. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll be back with another ghost story next week. Bye, guys.